It seems like every time you go to play a game, even if you're having fun, someone will call it a dead game. In fact, many people refer to gaming as a whole as dead. How can this be true? Well, it simply isn't. And today I'm going to give you another example of a game that isn't your average COD, 2K or FIFA experience. You may be asking, well, what is it that I can play instead? You're in luck, my friend, because gaming is not dead. Dusk is a boomer shooter in the same vein as games like Ultra Kill, Doom, Duke Nukem and the likes, and offers a delightful platter of weaponry, levels and enemies to mow your way through. The publishers of this game also would go on to publish Ultra Kill, which is completely fitting. Let me wind it back a bit though. You wake up alone, confused and angry, on a cult-like farm, wondering how on earth you got there, yet determined to find out. The only thing guiding you? A voice in your head. The only weapons you have? The ones you can scrounge around for. The only thing you care about? Revenge, and understanding how you ended up here. Dusk does an excellent job of launching you into a story without much to go off of, but just enough to keep you curious as you progress through the game. The story, however, is absolutely not the highlight of the experience, as Dusk offers, well, even though I'm sure the clips you saw showed a fair bit of what this game is about, they don't even begin to touch the surface of what it is this game offers. To begin the game, you are only given some of the most basic weapons: a pistol, a shotgun, melee weapons, your usual run-of-the-mill FPS arsenal. But before too long you feel spoiled for choice when it comes to what weapons to shred your foes with. I think the best part of the arsenal of weaponry is how diverse it is. There isn't one that feels significantly more powerful than the other, which I believe is in large part due to the level layout and enemies you face. Each gun, from the very starting pistol to the final riveter you get, has its own type of enemy it excels against. I still found myself whipping out the dual pistols even on the final level of the game simply because it was the most effective weapon to fell that particular foe. Speaking of enemies, the game does such a good job of keeping things diverse. Dusk offers 3 main chapters of the game, each taking around a few hours to complete. Hidden within each chapter is a clearly distinct yet classic feeling theme, and while you start out leaping your way through the sprawling fields and farmhouses of the rural cult, you eventually find yourself traversing space and time through portals and otherworldly, almost science fiction-esque levels to uncover the mystery of why you're here. How does this relate to enemies? Well, each chapter of the game introduces its own challenging foes. Take for example the Scarecrow enemy you encounter fairly early on in the game. This is a stationary scarecrow that, when approached, will reanimate into a shotgun-wielding menace. You don't really expect it for the first time because you see a few scarecrows scattered around early game and assume they must all be safe, but the first time it comes alive is, fittingly, around a cornfield, an on-theme level that makes sense to the progression of the game. The scarecrow is kind of an easy example, but if we look at something a bit later game like The Thing, this guy doesn't start appearing until you're truly in the depths of Dusk's hellscape, popping up in a sewer with a narrow hallway and minimal light. I personally let out a very manly scream when I encountered one for the first time. It's a hard point to make through explaining myself and is far better experienced, but Dusk keeps drip feeding you new enemies and styles of combat regularly enough throughout the game to keep it engaging and make you feel as if your next weapon or terrifying foe is just around the corner. One moment you're on the farm, the next you're breaching what feels like high security government facilities for answers. Not only this, but as you find weapons, you're quickly shown how to most effectively use them through the game's level design. As you pick up the piercing crossbow, for example, you are presented with a line of enemies to try it out on. I much prefer this hands-on style of introducing mechanics over a simple tutorial or written prompt because it makes you far more likely to remember how the weapon actually functions and shows you where exactly it's most effective. The devs also place weapons in a way around the map that where you find them is often the level telling you, hey, This gun, you'll want to be using it once you open this door. But a fun weapon system wouldn't be fun to use without a polished and refined movement system. This game offers some of the most polished and smooth movement I've experienced in a hot minute. I mean, just look at it. You can tell the devs wanted it to feel fast-paced and fun, and with some of what I'm going to touch on later, you'll see just how this fast movement is a key component to the post-story content in the game. I'd be doing a huge disservice to the game by not discussing how well it implements the masterful soundtrack it has. I highly recommend playing this game with headphones on, as do the developers, and for good reason. The grunge-filled heavy metal soundtrack is so fitting for the game to the point that I wouldn't even be surprised if the game was inspired by the soundtrack, as opposed to the other way around. Andrew Hulshult truly composed the perfect mesh of drums, guitar, bass, and synths to headbang your way through the game to, and I've even been bumping some of the OST outside of the game's confines. Even in the game's less chaotic areas, the ambient music provided perfectly encapsulates the urgency of speeding through levels while keeping a level of eeriness and atmosphere. Now, as I touched on, the game is only around 10 hours or so. It took me about 11 to complete from start to finish as someone who's fairly experienced with FPS games. You may be thinking this isn't much content, but hold on, this isn't even brushing over the completionist or community modded extras. While the main story offers only 10 hours or so as far as a first time playthrough, I think the true magic of the game is how replayable the levels are. The reality is, once you finish the story, you've just touched the surface, as each level has many reasons to play it time and time again. You get to choose your loadout before each mission once the main quest is complete, and why would you want to delve back in? Well, each level is timed with anywhere from 1 to 13 secrets to discover and endless creative ways to dispose of enemies. The levels even include a developer time, meaning you can replay levels over and over to earn faster times, eventually collecting all achievements for being even faster than the developers. You also get medals for not taking any damage, discovering all the secrets in a given level, using only environmental hazards to clear it, or not dealing any damage to enemies. What this means is the game offers you a fun, enjoyable story experience, but then completely reframes the game once completed to make for a far more fine-tuned, deliberate objective to complete. Some people in reviews have called the levels maze-like or confusing, but I personally did not find this to be the case. Well, yes, you do often end up backtracking a bit in Dusk to open a door with a key you found. I don't think it's done in a way that leaves you feeling confused, rather impressed, as in some situations when you're going back through the map, certain walls may drop to reveal new clusters of enemies, making back travel fun and almost transformative, or removing a lot of what makes trudging back through already traversed paths tedious. I also have seen this game does include a multiplayer client, which I imagine to be a blast. However, in order to get an active server going, they do prompt you to join their Discord and ask others. Unfortunately, this game is neither recent enough or well known enough to maintain a regular online community, which is a shame as I myself would have thoroughly enjoyed getting a taste of the PvP aspect. You may be thinking, this is a lot of content for a game. Seems like something you could play for quite some time, but there's even more. You can give the game infinite replayability through custom community modded content easily added to the game through the convenience of the Steam Workshop. You don't even have to change how the game functions, as mod support includes model replacement, so if you really wanted, you could replace enemies with Darth Vader, Hatsune Miku, or Teletubbies. I actually didn't even realize this game had mod support when I decided to make my video, and in my opinion, any game that lets you add custom levels, models, and modes to the game is a huge win for replayability. I know I myself plan on jumping into at least a couple of these mods to see what they offer, and if you do end up playing through the game yourself, I highly encourage you to do the same. Dusk is a game I got during a summer sale some time ago that I didn't really see being something I would enjoy. I'm more of a new generation gamer and didn't grow up playing Doom or any other similarly played out titles, so I had no nostalgic love for the genre, yet I found myself slowly falling in love with the game the more I played it. The movement, gunplay, levels, and enemies all come together like the Infinity Stones to make one hell of an experience. Get it? Hell. And I cannot recommend it enough. I think this is well worth the 30 Australian or 20 US dollars that it costs, as for the price you're getting a game that is well worth it all the way through the first story to the perfected badge earning runs and even the modded levels. If this video stood out to you, I highly encourage you to go check out the game for yourself. And if you have any game recommendations for me to check out or just want to share your thoughts, please drop a comment down below. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to check out my video. I really do appreciate it a lot. Until next time, peace.